authorized device has been paired with your Powerwall. So that would be this vehicle. It's already paired, and just like that, it has started charging on solar. So right now it's just taking the excess energy provided by the roof, putting it into the battery, so it's charged completely from the sun. This video is brought to you by StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world. They are also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage with microgrid solutions. This video is also brought to you by Kempower, the reliable, quick, and scalable EV charging solution for everyone and everywhere. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. You joined me in New York at our friend Rob's house, where we're going to talk about something we don't typically discuss on this channel, but I want to more. It comes down to generating your own electricity, storing it, and then dispensing it into your vehicle. And Rob has really the ultimate solar capture system, energy storage system, and vehicles where he can drive completely on the sun. I think it's a cool concept. We were just visiting and I was like, we have to make a video on this. I'm going to take you around his whole property, some of the costs to install his solar system on the roof. He's got 10.2 kilowatts from Tesla. However, it's producing way more than 10 kilowatt peak. He has two Powerwalls here, about 25, 26 kilowatt hours of energy storage, and then a Model 3 and a Model Y all connected into the system for him to use and drive essentially on the sun. He can also export to the grid the excess power that he produces. And well, yeah, I want to dig into this. It's also a preview to potentially a new channel that we're working on. Yes, another Out of Spec channel, but not an automotive one. Out of Spec Energy, not launching anytime soon, but it's in the works, is going to be talking about the production, distribution, storage, and usage of electricity on all the way from grid scale to home scale like this. And well, I wanted to see if that would be something you guys would even be interested in before we go hardcore on that channel. And yeah, so in this video, we're going to explore Rob's whole system, talk about the installation process, how it's been using. We have 2 full years of data on this system as well. And well, it's going to be a good one for the nerds. Let's get into it. Well, I just want to say up front, please forgive me if I leave out any key details in this video. I'm a car reviewer learning about electricity, learning about energy, but I think it's just as important to talk about how we're powering our vehicles, as well as like how we're using them and driving them, and of course the reviews that we typically make. And I think, especially with this electric transition, the generation of cleaner energy is so important. All the way back to how we actually mine the materials for our battery packs is something I really want to dig into and cover on potentially a new energy venture that we're looking into. So anyway, here on Rob's house, we're in New York, we're on Long Island, in a town called Dix Hills. This is actually the neighborhood where I grew up years and years ago before, you know, of course, my dad lives up in Connecticut, so it was fun to go by and see my childhood home. But our good friends still live here, and Rob is of course, a viewer of Out of Spec, which is awesome, but also an engineer and a nerd, and he honestly wanted solar and storage not to be greener, although that was a nice byproduct, but actually as a backup solution for when there's power outages. I remember growing up here and the grid went down during a major storm for over 1 week. And I think Rob was like, look, we're gonna be here for a long time. I wanna have energy storage, lots of solar, so you can live off grid if the power goes down. Lots of other reasons as well, but essentially on the roof here, you can see Tesla solar panels. Everything here is done by Tesla, which I think is nice. The integration is amazing, and I want to review other systems and look into other types of panels, but these are 350 watt panels. I think there's 30 of them roughly, and so that equals a 10.2 kilowatt solar array on the roof. What I don't understand though is when I load up Rob's Tesla app, I'll show you in a little bit, he's actually producing at times over 15 kilowatts. I'm not sure if that's just because those are 10.2 kilowatts nominal and there's a peak rating. Maybe you guys can help me understand that. I dug into it a little bit online, no clear answers either, because I can show you the receipts and I will. In the paperwork, it says he paid for a 10.2 kilowatt system and he's producing 14 or 15. Seems like a great situation, but maybe the meter's wrong, or maybe it truly is outperforming the listed rating. So that's something that I want to look into. Another thing of note is Rob has the panels on the back side of his house, south facing. So when you actually roll up to the front, you have no idea there's any sort of panels or anything cool going on here. And that was by design. He wanted it to keep it, you know, nice and aesthetically pleasing. And Rob's also, I believe, the president of the HOA here in the neighborhood. So he didn't want to like put solar panels everywhere in his like front yard, which I think would actually be pretty cool, but that was not his design target. He also, you'll notice as we walk around the house, he has no conduit on the outside. He paid a little bit extra to have all the conduit run through the house, and therefore there's no exterior conduit. There is an exterior breaker solar shutoff switch as required by code, but the conduit doesn't run to that from the outside of the house, it goes inside. That sounds like it was about an extra $3,000. The whole system with the power walls, I believe, and the solar was about $40,000 here. There are a bunch of incentives, both at the federal and state level, and even utility incentives that Rob was able to take advantage of. But the raw cost, I believe, was right around 40 grand. And again, we have the receipts that I can show you as well. So let's go. I want to take you on a little bit more of a tour of this. So roof of the house back here, you got a big solar array. I want to go find the solar cutoff switch because it all starts here at the beginning. How do you generate your power? And well, he generates it right here from the sun. And actually most of the energy throughout the middle of the day is exported to the grid. And I've just been going through with Rob talking about how he has his settings done. And I think we're going to optimize his solar usage. Because Rob also has something called net metering, which if he gives a kilowatt hour back to the grid, he gets a kilowatt hour later, is my understanding, at no cost. And he actually can buy it cheaper at night at a low rate than what he's selling it to. So he's making money throughout the day. The problem with that is when you're charging your cars at night off the grid and the house is going, you're not necessarily driving on sunshine at that point. So we altered his settings a little bit, and I'm really curious to see what you guys think about this, where maybe he won't be making as much money, but he could actually reduce his carbon output by utilizing more of the solar that he's creating throughout the day. He also had his Powerwall set to never drain below 65%. Again, he really wanted to use it as a backup generation, but I can show you in the app in the last 2 years, the longest he's ever needed the Powerwalls was for 1 hour. So I was like, if a storm's coming, yeah, juice them up. And Tesla has something called Storm Watch where it monitors the weather in your area and will juice the Powerwalls up to full. And I'm like, you can always do that if you think something's going to happen. It's a really hot day in the middle of summer. There might be rolling blackouts. But yeah, that was kind of the idea. So if we come around to this side of the house, there should be a disconnect somewhere. I'm seeing gas lines. Right here. Okay, we have the shutdown for rapid shutdown for solar PV system. Big red button right here. Yeah, let's not hit that. But you can see you have a meter here required for net metering. It's a tri-power source. So you have second source is the photovoltaic system, and the third source is the energy storage system on top of the grid. That's cool. This must be some sort of gateway controller. I don't believe this is the inverter for the solar. I think that's inside the garage, but again, I'm still learning. So again, don't take everything I'm saying here as fact. This is just a car reviewer fascinated with energy trying to figure all this stuff out. So pretty cool. This is essentially, I guess, somehow hooked into a solar system. The thing with Rob's house was it was quite an expensive install because he's been utilizing the full house. So you have the solar on the back, you have the power walls all the way in the garage, which are on the opposite side from where I'm staying now. And I'll show you how the cords are run, the wires run inside. And so you had to run cabling throughout the entire property to make this all work. And that's pretty interesting. And it all also comes down to aesthetics, keeping the power walls inside so you don't notice anything from the outside. It's also probably better on the batteries, I would think. You guys let me know, keeping them in a temperature controlled-ish garage rather than subjecting them to exterior conditions. They say they can run from -4 degrees Fahrenheit up to roughly 80 or 90 degrees Fahrenheit for optimal performance, and deep into the hundreds, of course, if it absolutely needs to. But I think just keeping them out of the sun, keeping them out of the extreme cold in the winter should increase efficiency. So I wanted to show you guys this. Let's run back into the garage, take a look at the power walls, how his whole charging solution's running. Then I'm going to show you how it's wired over here to the main panel in the house. And then lastly, we'll go through the app and look at all the data. Should be pretty fun. Welcome to what I think my dream garage kind of looks like from an energy creation standpoint. Personally, I love the idea of what I call selfish solar, where I can produce my own electricity, store my own electricity, and then use my own electricity in my electric cars. To me, that's ultimate freedom. That is just like sticking it to the man, everyone out of my way. I'm using my own power. There's nothing more free than that in my mind, and I just love that. And Rob's of the same approach, which is really cool that he's got this full setup. I think it requires some fine tuning, and he's actually been kind enough to share his home and his system in my Tesla app, so I'm able to monitor and keep track of how he's using the system, and also just see what's happening so I can learn about the effects of weather, in terms of his usage and charging his vehicles. And it'll be really fun to watch this house go, and maybe we'll even do some reports every year or something like that on this system. So we have over 10 kilowatts of solar on the roof. Let me just show you this here. I'm going to pull up the Tesla app. Let's see what it's doing right now. So we'll let it load up. Here we go. Cybertruck. We got a lot of cars in here. Didn't I just share the house to this app, Alyssa?
At the bottom.
At the bottom? But, oh yeah, here we go, Shangri-La. Nice. Okay, so here's everything that's happening. We're producing 6.8 kilowatts. Wow, it's really gone down. Earlier today, we were in the 14, 15 kilowatt region. 3.6 kilowatts or so is being used by the home. It's exporting 3.2 kilowatts because both power walls are up to 100%. Now, if I come here to settings, there's a setting that Rob had before, which was he had it set to never drain the power wall below 65%. I've convinced him to come down to about 50% just to try it out. And that should allow the power walls to drain at night a little bit below where they were. So actually, I just want to come here to impact. I want to come to today. Is this the right menu? Oh, forgive me for not totally knowing this whole thing. If I come here to today, Powerwall, you can see at nighttime, the Powerwalls, last night, basically, he was at, let's see, 77% coming in through the middle of the night. And then at 2 a.m. or so, he had to pull from the grid a little bit because he had it set to never drain below 65. Then he's got a mega solar system that charged up his Powerwalls back to 100% by the time noon came. And I'm like, Rob, you're just not utilizing the energy you have stored well enough. So now we've drained it to 50%. Hopefully that will allow him to not pull from the grid as much. Now, keep in mind, he has net metering, so it shouldn't affect him from a cost perspective, but from a coolness factor, green energy, using your own electricity, I want him to use these power walls. Rob may also expand to more power walls, but we've done a lot of optimizations with the vehicles today as well, which I think is really cool. So you have up here your 2 solar inverters on top of each power wall, which is kind of interesting. So I'm guessing these are 6 or 7 kilowatt inverters. Maybe someone can let me know what these are running, because it says inverter number 2, photovoltaic system equipped with rapid shutdown. So maybe this is for the Powerwall. I really truly don't know the whole system. I know there's a new Powerwall 3 that has just come out. This is Powerwall 2. And Rob's solar photovoltaic, his PV cells, because I mentioned he didn't want any conduit on the outside of his house, actually come down through the closets and everything in the roof. And those are what are feeding this inverter. So yeah, these are definitely solar inverters then, because that's the straight PV system power coming into here. Sick. So then, of course, so he's got the energy storage in terms of power walls. Actually, there was a program in New York where he got a free or a $500 credit towards a level 2 station. So he has a charge point home station hooked into a NEMA 1450, which has just gone into, his regular home supply. So this was essentially free as part of all this. And he started with 1 Tesla, and then he got a second, and he just put in an order for a Rivian R2, and he's going fully electric. He's never getting rid of the Porsche though. Everyone should have an enthusiast car for the weekends, just something fun to go out, but he is doing all of his driving electric every day. Speaking of that, this is the part that I was really interested in today, and I got to actually get Rob's phone to get the car access, but there is a setting. If we come here to vehicle charging, and this is when you're off grid, you can go from 75% of save it for the house 25% of the power can go to the vehicle, which when there's a power outage, he may choose to just not charge the vehicles at all. But there's another setting, I guess, when you have your own account, since we're a shared account, we don't see it, where you can actually set the cars to charge to a minimum charge level every time. So we've set them to 50%, and we're actually going to go through the process of setting up the Model Y. We've already set up the 3. We've set them to charge to 50% using whatever power is available. And then anything above 50%, the car will only take in when there's excess solar. And that had not been set up before today. And this, I think, is going to make a huge impact on how much energy Rob is pushing back to the grid, how much power he's selling back, because he just wasn't utilizing it effectively. You know, once the Powerwalls reached 100%, which happened pretty quickly because he had them charged to 65%, you know, never to go below that, he would produce a bunch of solar midday, and then the energy had nowhere to go except back to the grid. But now if he keeps the cars plugged in, even if the Powerwalls hit 100%, he can then put the excess into his car and drive on sunshine. And once the cars reach its maximum, you know, solar power charge limit, which I think we've set to 90% on both, which is pretty high. Rob is great about taking care of his batteries, very rarely charging above 70 or 80%, but he does want to use the excess solar when he has it. Once the cars are filled up and the Powerwalls are filled up, then he will export to the grid. So let's pull up some more data inside. I just wanted to show you this whole situation. It is so exciting to me. And I think it sounds like we're going to move sometime over the summer. I really want to do a system like this in our new house, something really cool. And potentially, I've heard Cybertruck, which we own, of course, supports bi-directional charging. And because I bought a Foundation Series Beast version of the Cybertruck, it comes with all the bi-directional stuff. So having a system like this, plus solar, plus the bidirectionality of our Cybertruck, going in for a full Tesla system, kind of seems to make sense to me to have it fully controlled in one ecosystem. And I think that brings up one last point before we go inside, which is, what ecosystem do you buy into? Do you go all in on the Tesla stuff, or do you go third party, which may be less expensive, but might be more complicated to manage in the back end? The thing that I've always said Tesla's done better than pretty much any other automaker and any other company is the full integration of everything. It's a very Apple-like experience. This talks to this, which talks to this, and you can manage everything as a full system. And to me, that's very appealing. And I think that's partially why Rob just didn't even think about any other company, went for Tesla, because he knew it was just going to all work. I'd love to find other companies that are doing it like this, with this approach, with full integration, that may not be charging as much money as Tesla is. None of this stuff is cheap. Powerwalls are thousands and thousands of dollars for only 13 kilowatt hours of usable energy capacity. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a great value, but maybe it is. You guys let me know. I'm learning this space. This is day one for me. Let's go look at some data. Well, guys, let me show you just some of the cool integration that Tesla has going on. I've got the house over here. We're producing 5.2 kilowatts of solar, and we're actually, only 2 kilowatts is being used by the house, so we're exporting 3.2 kilowatts. Here I have the car in the app. I'm going to set the charge limit for the solar to go to 90%. You can see I have it set when it's not, when you're just powering from the grid, to charge to 50% normally. And then anything beyond this level will be charged by solar. So now that I've set this going, you can see Eve charging is started right there. And you're going to take a look here, if we can just reset the house. Sometimes you got to re-ping it. So if we look here on, well, I'll just show it here. So if we look here, now that we set Eve to charge on excess, the house again is producing 5 kilowatts. It's going down because it's getting to be evening time. 3 kilowatts is being used by the house, and 2 are going into the Model 3. The Powerwalls are already at 100%. So in the mornings, what will probably happen is the Powerwalls will be drained from charging overnight, from discharging overnight. The solar will charge up the Powerwalls to 100%. And then when there's excess, after the Powerwalls reach 100%, the excess will go into the Model 3, which again, we set to charge up to, at least in this case, 90% for the video, but I think Rob is going to actually set it to an 80% maximum. Once the cars reach their maximum percentage, then he will actually export to the grid. And to take a look at the performance of the system over the last year, even just today, crazy, Rob has produced 81.8 kilowatt hours from his 10 kilowatt maximum solar system, which again is outperforming the nominal rating that we've seen. If I come here to the daytime, this is on the vehicle, you can see the total energy of everything being used. So we have 45% on solar, 51% from grid. And the reason, again, the grid is so high is because the Powerwalls weren't discharging below 65%. And here's the charge level indicating that. If I go to look over, let's just say the last year, we can go to 2023 as an example and look at the solar. He's generated 12.5 megawatt hours in 2023, 11.8 in 2022. And you can see each month the performance of the system is massively different. So August is the big month here. That is just where you got almost 2 megawatt hours in 1 month. Just insane. So this is pretty cool for sure. If we take a look at the grid usage over lifetime, you can see we've imported 18.4 megawatt hours and exported 5.5. So as a total system year round, it's not 100% off grid, but certainly in the summertime, there's some tuning that we can do, which hopefully today's work will improve the entire system here. Where you can definitely get more from sun than we've been doing. And just because of the Powerwalls not discharging all of the way. The impact, I guess, so you can see we're 42% self-powered, 58% from the grid so far in 2024, but keep in mind it's still just coming out of winter time. If we look at 2023 overall, that number goes up to 54% because in the summer months, this has got to be through the roof, maybe 70 or 80% self-powered, which is amazing. In the 2 years or so that Rob's had the system, it's backed up his house only, let's just see, a total of 3 hours and 20 different events where we've lost grid connection power. And it lists each one of these right here. Some are only a few seconds, some are an hour. And that is pretty cool. But in the event of a really long outage, hopefully this process called Storm Watch will kick in. We can come here and it's on standby. And Storm Watch, again, looks for weather conditions in the area, juices the Powerwalls up to 100%, whether it's from solar or from the grid, and then gives it full power or full energy storage to get you through a long storm. So there's so much data here. I'm learning a ton from figuring this out. It's fascinating to me. Again, I can't wait to have our own system, something like this in the near future. And it'll be really fun to see how this all plays out and monitoring it and learning about the whole solar storage and usage of electricity in a home. So guys, one thing that we did was we actually set up the Model 3 Eve with the system, but the Model Y needs to get set up with the solar excess. So we're going to come here to Shangri-La. We're going to go to settings, vehicle charging. Inside here, you can see we have one vehicle paired and not the other one. So let's pair this one. It says drive on sunshine, continue. And we're basically going to say, what is the minimum driving range that they want to always have in the vehicle? And we'll probably set somewhere around 50 to 60%. They'll adjust this over time, but that would be like the minimum they ever get in their car with. And then the excess generated by the sun, Rob doesn't like his batteries high, neither do I. We'll probably set to 80%. So both cars will be set with the same settings, but they may choose to adjust this over time, even setting their potentially daily charging down to 30% if they really don't go far. That's what I would personally do, but we're going to set it to 50% now, and then any excess will be charged by the sun up to 80. And it says plug in your vehicle at home during the day to charge using excess clean energy generated by your solar system. And we've already set the charge limits. Done. And what's interesting is there's a minimum 1.2 kilowatt load of that it'll take, and that's mostly for onboard chargers and some other things, so they don't get stressed under super light loads, which they do. And we're good to go. So now essentially the Model Y is sitting at, I don't know, somewhere around 60%. And once there is sufficient excess solar, it will start charging up to the solar charge limit here on the right side. And you can see a new authorized device has been paired with your Powerwall. So that would be this vehicle. It's already paired. And just like that, it has started charging on solar. So right now it's just taking the excess energy provided by the roof, putting it into the battery So it's charged completely from the sun, and it's doing 11 amps, which is cool. And this will adjust and change throughout the day until nighttime comes around. There's less than 1.2 kilowatts of excess solar, and then it will cut off the load. Very, very cool. Well, guys, you joined me outside with Rob. Rob, you've known me since I was pretty much born.
Pretty much, exactly.
And, you know, one thing that I thought was pretty cool was you are so into technology, have always been, and you have gone with the craziest setup for your house. So you put all this in 2021, end of 21, it sounds like. First of all, what made you want to do the solar installation and the batteries and everything like that?
I think it was really not about cost savings. It was more about safety, having backup. You know, when a storm comes through, tends to take all the clouds with it, and suddenly you have a beautiful sunny day, but the utilities are down. So just more for safety reasons and for autonomy.
Yeah, I think that's pretty neat. And you decided to, so did you already have your Model 3 before you did this system?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so is that what led to the decision to go with Tesla, or was there something else? Because there's a bunch of companies offering a solar and battery solution, but my impression from the outside looking in is Tesla's just, you just call one company, they do it all, exactly. It all integrates. What was your thought process?
Yeah, exactly that. I like to, you know, package things together as much as possible. And it turned out that Tesla offered the most competitive price anyway, and they did a fantastic job.
So they were the cheapest.
Yes.
And so I was looking at earlier, you showed me some receipts. It was roughly 40,000 for the system. Did that include the solar and the Powerwalls?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay. And then there was a 25% or so incentive?
Yeah, I think it was a 26% incentive at the time, federal tax credit. And I think it's actually better now. It might be 30.
Oh, wow. So cool.
Good time.
So yeah, let's run through. So you've put these panels on the roof. You were here for the installation process.
Yeah.
How did that go? What was that like?
Well, it was really interesting. At first, they started hoisting them up and pulling them up the ladder. And it was putting on these scratches as they were coming up. And the guys said, don't worry, we'll just buff those out. And I said, well, it's better we don't do that to begin with. So they were good enough to then hoist them up to this level and then up from there. So they were really great guys, very professional, and worked out.
Amazing. So they put all that up there, they wired it through. And one thing I mentioned earlier in the video was you can't tell rolling up to the front of your house that any of this is going on. There's no extra conduit. I mean, from a homeowners association standpoint, what was your viewpoint on sort of setting the standard for the neighborhood?
Well, I mean, it turns out I'm on the board of directors here. So we wanted to do it as neatly as possible. So I paid a premium. It wasn't that much. Maybe it was another $3,000 to punch through the roof, through the attic, down some closets, and into the garage. So it's just seamless. As Cal said, you know, you drive up and you don't see any solar panels.
But we had also talked last night as well. Tesla has the new roof tiles that are quite expensive, but you can do a full roof. That would kind of look cool from the outside. So is there a regulation that you didn't want to see solar from the front? Or if you do the solar roof, that would be kind of cool? Or what's your thoughts?
Definitely the solar roof would be beautiful, definitely acceptable, but it's a lot more expensive. So I haven't checked the prices in a while, so they could have come down, but I think relatively speaking, they were at least 2x.
And one thing I noticed, at least during the summertime, your solar panel system here is producing well over 10 kilowatts. So we need to look into what's going on with that, because you have 30 panels, right?
Correct.
And they're 350 watts or so, 340 watts.
Correct.
And so you're just ripping a bunch of solar here. So we made some adjustments today. Actually, can we go to the garage? Is there a way we can open it from the outside?
Sure, yes.
So we basically did some tuning where you were never letting your power walls drop below 65%. So now we're going to let them discharge to 50, and maybe in the future you could get a little crazy and drop them lower. And that should really increase the amount of energy you can pull from this system. Oh, there's my dad. He's made it back. So Rob, we have the solar production is up in the roof. Comes in through here, right?
Correct.
And do you know how many kilowatts these inverters are? I think they're a little bit more than you're needing to use, right?
I'm not sure. I mean, they're integrated with, this is a Powerwall 2.0, I think. So, not sure on that.
Yeah, well, I showed the viewers this system here. So you have the solar coming in. I also showed them the emergency disconnect on the other side.
Yes.
But I was hoping we could show everyone the control line that you put in between to your main distribution.
In the like basement?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go this way. I'll follow you down.
Thank you.
And so, do you know if it was significantly more expensive running the power line to the other side of the house?
No, I don't think that was an add-on. Big Dave, out of spec Dave. So the garage actually ends up here. So the cabling came across the drop ceiling, probably into this side of the wall here, and into the main panel. Right in there, that big gray wire.
Yeah, so here's your main panel. So you have 3 sources of energy like we saw on the outside. I guess this is why your disconnect is on this wall, right on the other side of this panel.
Correct.
And then this is your main feed from, I guess, the whole system, Powerwall and solar, coming in from the garage this way.
I know there was a back and forth. There were 2 wires, one in, one back.
Okay, makes sense.
For controls.
It's pretty amazing, the whole setup, how like slick everything is. There's no impact. You'd have no idea from the outside of your house.
Correct.
That any of this is in. So let's run up. We'll give final thoughts on the system, then we'll end this video. Rob, you really have the ultimate garage here. The sports car for the weekend, the daily drivers that are electric. You're generating your own power. You're storing it. How has it been the last 2 years? Would you recommend someone to do this?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. It's just more, to me, it's more about peace of mind, where if there are any issues, you know, we just have a way to generate energy and be safe. And there's been months where our electric bill has been $15, which is incredible.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that's just icing on the cake, but I would recommend it for sure.
I'm really curious to see how the tuning that we've set up now, where you're probably going to be exporting less to the grid, now that you're going to dump in some excess solar to the 2 vehicles. I'm curious to see how your experience is with that, if you like it, if you decide to shut it off. But the summer months seem like the perfect time to take advantage of excess solar.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I think that's going to work out perfectly, so appreciate it.
Cool. Well, thanks, Rob, and congratulations on a cool system. Thanks for letting me film it. This is hopefully cool to our audience. I learned a ton.
Thank you,
from this.
Appreciate it so much.
Cool. We'll see y'all on another video soon. Leaving you now from New York. Next video should be back in Colorado. See you guys. Bye.